Softer woods are always lighter, and harder woods are always heavier. But how does that, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It really depends on you. Softer woods don't have as much sustain, but have a warmer tone. Harder woods have tons of sustain, but lack a little bit of bottom end, so you're going to have to add some bottom end with your EQ. But it's not the same thing. Adding frequencies with EQ or cutting frequencies with EQ is not as good as actually going right to the source. One of the reasons that we're such believers in multi-scale and fan frets is because you're EQing your bass right at the source, as opposed to trying to fix it after everything's been summed into the pickups and sent down the cable. But there's a really interesting thing with swamp ash. Swamp ash grows in swamps, and so part of the tree is submerged and filled with water. So when you cut the tree down and all that water dries out, the stuff that was at the bottom of the tree, you'd think that would be the heaviest part of the tree, but it's not. It becomes the lightest part of the tree. So if you have, and swamp ash for some reason typically comes in shorter boards, usually about 6 foot, as opposed to maple, which can come in 12 feet long and 20 feet long sometimes. And if you take a piece of swamp ash and you cut a section for a body off the top of it and a section off the bottom, same board, they'll weigh about a pound difference, which is one of the reasons why all through the 70s and 60s you'd have swamp ash instruments. Some of them would be 10 pounds, some of them would be 6 pounds, and you know, there was no consistency. And people, I remember people would blame, I'll say the name, people would blame Fender and think it was a quality problem, but it wasn't a quality problem, it was just the wood that they were using. And at that time, people didn't really care. I mean, people weren't as conscious about woods as they are now. Now people obsess over woods. In the 60s, you know, they didn't care. But we're, you know, sort of a second generation of boutique builders, and you know, the first generation were wood nerds, and the second generation learned from the wood nerds and became wood nerds. And so it was a real problem for us when we first started using swamp ash. I didn't want to have the same situation where you have a 6-pound bass and a 10-pound bass. I wanted to figure out some way of getting around that. And because we're primarily 5-string builders, you can't really have a 6-string bass or 5-string bass with a really powerful beat. You need some mass in that body to make the beat stand out, because the beat's quite a heavy string. So what we did, and I'm pretty proud of this, is we came up with the idea of a dual density body. Now, that's not a new concept. Les Pauls have been built that way forever. But what they did with the Les Paul was they would laminate a large piece of mahogany on the bottom, and then they would put a maple cap on it to try and get more top end out of that mahogany. What we did, and this was mainly to try and make more consistent instruments out of woods that were both heavy and light in the same board, what we did was we started making what we call a dual density body, where we'd take the heavy piece of swamp ash and we'd use that for the entire bass side of the instrument. And then we'd take the lighter piece of swamp ash and we'd use it on the treble side of the instrument. And that way there was a consistent weight on all the basses. And then
Ladies and gentlemen, coming up in a few minutes on the main stage, we have Mo Foster.
Would have a consistent B string on every bass and would have a nice resonance on the treble side. And the first thing that people would think of is, how can that possibly work? You've got a bridge, a metal bridge sitting on top of the woods. Then you've got pickups, and then everything's going down a cable. How can you possibly hear the difference between two pieces of wood that are side by side like that? And it's unbelievable. As you tap across, sorry, Chris, I'm just yanking on your bass here. If we were to take the strings off and just plug it in, and then take maybe a screwdriver and just tap it on these saddles, just like this, you'd actually hear a difference from saddle to saddle to saddle in the resonance of the wood. Now again, that's something, are you going to hear it in the concert? No. But as you're sitting at your amplifier, you're definitely going to hear the difference. But more importantly, you'll feel that resonance difference. And so you can really play with densities of wood If you're looking for a really strong B string, you need that mass. And if you're looking for warmth and you're looking for a great tone for playing chords and things like that, then a softer wood in the treble side is just the tip of it. It's a really nice mix. So the two major woods, alder, swamp ash, at least on bolt-on instruments. Alder has a humped tone, strong in the mid-range. Swamp ash has a scoop mid, strong in the top end, strong in the bottom end.